Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yugioh Everything, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh video. So we have gotten some really cool news within the past 3 or 4 days about new cards that are coming to the Yu-Gi-Oh TCG and the Yu-Gi-Oh OCG. And these are cards that were in the anime of Yu-Gi-Oh! One being GX and one being Arc 5, the two that we're going to focus on in this particular video, that are finally being printed. The GX ones we've known about for a while. They are Jim's Fossils, and we just got a bunch more of Jim's Fossil cards released and what the cards are going to do. There are a lot of differences between the cards' effects from the anime and in the actual TCG, so we're going to go over those and highlight those, and I'm going to talk about why it seems Fossils playing them in the actual card game should definitely be easier than playing them in the anime. And another character is also getting her cards printed from Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5, which I definitely did not see coming, and that is the Elsa of Yu-Gi-Oh! Her name is Olga. She appeared in the Arc 5 tournament arc in the early stages of the show before they went to the Synchro Dimension. She was eventually carded by Yuri, but before she was carded by Yuri, she had some pretty cool dueling moments. I always liked her design a lot. She always did remind me of Elsa, obviously the queen from Frozen. That was like the big meme when she appeared. And the cards that she uses, at least 3 of them, are going to be in Collection Pack 2020, which is really, really awesome. Before we get into the cards, I actually made a video about a week ago where I went series by series and selected one anime exclusive deck that I would really like to see printed in 2020, with the news that Fossils were coming out and that a few other anime-based support type monsters were coming out. And so if that video interests you at all, I would really appreciate it if you checked it out. I will have it linked down below. But let's just start with Olga's cards, the Ice Queen from Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5. And the 3 cards that she is getting printed are Glacial Beast Blizzard Wolf and Glacial Beast Polar Penguin. Those are 2 of the 3. Now, Glacial Beast Polar Penguin is the tuner monster, and actually in the anime, her big summoning, her big moment in the spotlight, I guess you could say, was when she synchro summoned using Glacial Beast Polar Penguin and Glacial Beast Blizzard Wolf to create Glacial Beast Iceberg Narwhal, which before this card was announced and printed, this was actually one of the strongest Arc 5 exclusive monsters in terms of attack points that remained anime exclusive after the show ended. So one of those monsters that was on the top 10 list for that is now being printed, and this monster, Glacial Beast Narwhal, is 1 tuner and 1 non-tuner water monsters. You can only use the effects once per turn. Each time another monster you control is destroyed by battle with an opponent's attacking monster or by an opponent's card effect, inflict 600 damage to your opponent, and then during the battle phase, when your opponent activates a card or effect while you control another monster, you can negate that effect, and if you do, destroy that card. So it's a pretty cool synchro monster. As of now, these are the only 3 cards coming to the Glacial Beast archetype. I think these are probably the only... I can't remember if she used any other cards besides these 3. Of course, using the 2 effect monsters to go into the synchro was her big play in the anime, even though, you know, she only dueled once, but that's what she did in the anime. So we're gonna have to wait and see if this pack will have some more Glacial Beast support, but either way, I'm excited for it, if not because I love Olga's character design. Even though Glacial Beast Iceberg Narwhal, I don't really love the design of it. It's got a cool head where the hand is, which is pretty cool. I actually way prefer Glacial Beast Polar Penguin and Glacial Beast Blizzard Wolf. Why? Because wolves and penguins are probably my 2 favorite animals. I'm not even kidding. So the fact that, maybe that's why I actually liked Olga so much. The fact that we're getting a wolf and a penguin card is really, really cool to me. So I like that a lot, and I'm excited to see the Glacial Beast archetype in action, even though at the moment we only have those 3 cards. But before I get into Jim Crocodile Cook's other fossil cards, we also got some pretty interesting monsters on the cover of Collection Pack 2020. And the monsters that are on this cover are Fossil Warrior Skull King, which we already knew was being printed, and Number C1 Numeron Chaos Gate Sunya, which means that Dawn Thousand's number monsters, even though we haven't had any official confirmation on that besides the monster on the cover, Dawn Thousand's number monsters might actually be coming to the Yu-Gi-Oh card game. And a Vrain's character is actually going to get his or her deck printed. I'm still not sure what Robopi was, gender-wise, but Appliancer Socket Troll is also on the right side of this pack cover. So we're getting Appliancers before we're getting Sun Avalons, before we're getting Blood Shepherd's Drones, Windy's Storm Riders. Kind of a shock there to me that we are getting Appliancers before all of those. When it comes to Vrain's decks, there's probably about 3 that I would put in front of Appliancers for my personal wants, but on that video where I went series by series, there were a few people who picked Appliancers for Vrain, so they really called it literally 4 days later, and oh wow, I guess we're actually getting Appliancers. Again, we don't have any official word on that. I will definitely make a video when those cards get revealed, because again, when it comes to the anime and cards, I always do love going over them. And we're going to get into the fossil monsters that have been printed. I do want to say that all of these monsters appeared in the anime. There are no non-anime fossil support cards that are getting printed as of yet. That might change, but at the moment, these were all anime cards. And if you want real in-depth insight onto how these cards run, I know Mega Capital G posted a video on it, and I'm sure some other TCG-based channels posted videos on these fossil cards. So if you want some competitive analysis, definitely head over to those channels. I'm just going to quickly highlight all of the monsters we're getting. We're getting Weathering Soldier, which is an effect monster. We're getting a lot of fusion monsters. Fossil Warrior Skull Knight, Fossil Warrior Skull Bone, Fossil Dragon Skullgios, which is probably my favorite from all of the fossils, so I'm really happy about that. Fossil Dragon Skullgar, and then 3 spells. We're getting Time Stream, Specimen Inspection, and Miracle Rupture. And again, I do want to reiterate, all of these cards were used by Jim Cook in the anime, but we have some new effects and some different summoning requirements. Obviously, fossils are going to be the main draw of this pack. This was the archetype that won the voting for Collection Pack 2020. And starting with Weathering Soldier, its only effect in the anime, if I can remember correctly, was during your end phase, this card loses 600 attack. It's a 2000 attack point level 4 monster, so you don't need to tribute it. But this monster now has an additional effect, where if this card is sent to the grave by a card effect or is destroyed by battle, you can add from your deck to your hand either 1 Fossil Fusion or 1 card that specifically lists Fossil Fusion in its text, except Weathering Soldier. So Weathering Soldier, while in the anime it was just a very strong level 4 monster that decreases its attack every end phase, Weathering Soldier is now a search monster, so it's a pretty good effect. It's a great bonus effect from what was a pretty mediocre anime effect, in all fairness. And really, all of these monsters, all of these fusion monsters, have their requirements different. For instance, Fossil Warrior Skull Knight, you need a rock monster and a level 5 or 6 monster. Fossil Warrior Skull Knight in the anime, you needed a level 5 or 6 monster in your opponent's graveyard. They've pretty much, on almost all of these, there is still one where you need to use your opponent's graveyard. Actually, I think there might be 2. But all of these fusions that you needed to dig into your opponent's graveyard, a lot of them no longer have that effect. Fossil Warrior Skull Knight, you don't need to use your opponent's graveyard. The next one up is Fossil Warrior Skull Bone, and it's the same deal. In the anime, you had to use a level 4 or lower warrior-type monster in your opponent's grave. It had to be a warrior monster. It's very specific. They've just nixed it entirely. It's now a generic level 4 or lower monster that you do not need to use from your opponent's graveyard. So those 2 fusions are much easier to summon because you don't need to rely on a specific type of monster, like in the case of Fossil Warrior Skullbone needing a warrior monster, and you don't need to use your opponent's graveyard. However, the next 2, you do. My favorite, Fossil Dragon Skullgios, unfortunately, you do need to use a level 7 or higher monster in your opponent's grave. But the good news is in the anime, you had to use a level 8 or higher dinosaur-type monster in your opponent's graveyard. So they have made this monster much easier to summon. For starters, your opponent no longer needs to use dinos, which is huge, because obviously if you're going up against an opponent that's not using dinosaurs, that pretty much means Skullgios is unplayable. all you need is your opponent to have a level 7 or higher monster in their grave. It's no longer level 8. They lowered the level, and they made it generic. So they made Yugioh a little more easier to summon. And then the final change, at least with the monsters, Fossil Dragon Skullgar, you need a rock monster and a level 4 or lower monster in your opponent's graveyard. In the anime, it had to be a level 4 or lower dinosaur-type monster. So with Fossil Dragon Skullgar and with Fossil Dragon Yugioh, which probably are my two favorite card artworks, I just love the fossilized dinos running around on these cards. Instead of needing a dino monster in your opponent's grave, it's generic. You can just use whatever monster you need to use that meets the level requirements. So they've made these fusions much easier to use. If they had the same exact requirements from the anime, they would be a nightmare to use. Basically, if you're not going up against a dino deck or a warrior deck, some of these monsters would literally be impossible to summon. So I'm happy that they did that. The spell cards did change a little bit too. Like, for instance, Miracle Rupture, you have to have Fossil Fusion engraved to draw one card. I don't believe that was the case in the anime, but I understand why they did that, because free draws, which essentially this would be, because if you're using this card, obviously you're using a fossil deck, and it's not hard to send a level 4 or lower rock from deck to grave. So at least by adding Fossil Fusion has to be in grave, at least by adding that requirement, it makes it a little more difficult to use. It's not as free, but it's also not a huge cost because Fossil Fusion is going to be in your grave a lot. It is the core piece of this deck. But guys, I'm really glad that they made fossils more playable, and I'm really glad that, as I said about a week ago in that video, 2020 continues to seemingly be the magical year for all of these anime archetypes and anime decks and anime characters finally seeing their support printed. In the case of fossils, we've waited about a decade and a half now, so this is really, really cool. And I don't know, I might actually go out and purchase some of these fossil cards. I think I'm definitely going to purchase the Glacial Beasts, not even to play them. I do like to just collect the cards. But you guys let me know what you think of Olga, Yu-Gi-Oh! Elsa, and Jim Crocodile Cook's cards being printed, as well as a more than likely possibility Robopi's cards and Don Thousand's number cards will come to the game as well. Really excited to hear your thoughts on all of these cards, all of these archetypes. I really do learn so much about the game just by hearing from all of you, the experts, down below in the comments section. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed, and a big thank you to my Platinum tier patrons Alexa Baker, Glen McGookin, Jorge Carrillo, Horace Maye, Goosey Q, Vincent Van Der Veen, Panther J, Smith620, Jorge Leon, Blue Maiden 28, Jarrett Buller, and Gabe G, and to my Diamond tier patrons Jesse Wood, Latrell Smith, Sean, and Melinda Phantom, and to my Egyptian God tier patron Syn Cloud. Thank you to everyone who supports me on Patreon and who is a YouTube channel member. I would not be able to do this without all of you. I will talk to you all down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day.